Crazy how after 13 years of Disney Star Wars, they still haven't produced a single iconic ship design. You think they realize that that's the sequel era Falcon and a Resistance X-Wing? Anyways, I think there's at least 3 ships from the Disney era that should fall under iconic at this point, a couple of others that could be iconic if they pushed it more in media and merchandise, and just a couple of my favorites that definitely don't fall under iconic but more so highly underrated and should get more love. Starting with probably the oldest from this era, the Ghost from Rebels. 12 years of live action and animated appearances and merch, if there's one ship that is most definitely iconic and earned that title, it's the Ghost. It also makes a pretty nice addition to one's collection. The Razor Crest is probably right behind the Ghost, and it's only been around half the time with a similar amount of appearances and merch. I think the moment you get your own UCS Lego set, you've made it. If you think about the Mandalorian, you think about the ship he flies, whether that be the Razor Crest, which they brought back after destroying, or his N1. It's great that the Disney era can contribute to the Alphabet Starfighter line like Legends did with the E-Wing or K-Wing, but with the U-Wing, and this is one that has constantly showed up since its first appearance in Rogue One. I think its time in both the game's squadrons and its importance in the Alphabet Squadron book trilogy solidified how Lucasfilm sees the Starfighter. The fact that nobody has an issue when any of those ships come on screen and so many love it when they do should tell you something. There are at least 2 ships from the Disney era that should reach iconic status, and the first one is Luthen Rael's Fondor from Andor. We mostly see it in Season 1, and that's where we really see it in action going up against an Imperial cruiser, and from that moment on, it probably became a lot of people's new favorite ship. I'm honestly surprised that LEGO hasn't tried to build a set off of it by now. Now hear me out on this next one, Kylo Ren's TIE Silencer. The aesthetic of the ship seemed like a nice step forward from the Empire. The darker colors, the red glass. Red is something I really wish that the First Order leaned in on more, but unfortunately we don't see the Silencer past The Last Jedi. It does pop up in a couple of comics, but instead we get the Whisper in Rise of Skywalker, which is like the Silencer but with a normal TIE cockpit, and I feel like not continuing to use it past The Last Jedi is holding it back from being iconic. Now here are a couple of my favorites that don't get much love but could have been iconic if done right, starting with the TIE Dagger from The Rise of Skywalker that we don't really get to see a lot of in this film. I see it as a natural progression of the TIE combining both the fighter and interceptor. I do wish the red was more obvious, it was more black like the First Order TIEs, and maybe had the cockpit of the TIE Whisper with the red wrapped around it for it to stand out a bit more. This should have been the base TIE fighter for the First Order. And next is the Fireball from the Resistance cartoon. We need more unique starfighters, and we can't be afraid to go wild with them and push them out to give them a chance. But it had some of the weirdest merch. It had a miniature for the X-Wing game and popped up in some trading cards here and there, but nothing else. Not even a Lego set. But if Hasbro came out and put this out with a Kaz figure, I'd be buying this in a heartbeat. We need more ace pilots out in the wild. There are others that I didn't mention, like the Marauder from the Bad Batch, but what about you? What are some of your favorite ships of the last 14 years, and some that you may consider iconic at this point?